Alrighty. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Kowalski, and I will be analyzing whether Frank committed burglary based on the given fact pattern. This is for Law 301, Week 5. Okay, so the facts tell us basically how the story begins on one rainy night, right? Frank went out looking for Billy because Billy owed him $100. While searching for him, Frank carried a loaded handgun, which he believed was reasonable for walking alone at night. Okay. After several hours of searching, the light rain turned into a more kind of heavier downpour, and Frank ended up finding himself about half a mile from any public shelter. In an effort to escape the storm, he broke a window and entered what appeared to be an abandoned house. Importantly, he had no idea whose house it was and entered only to seek shelter. So it's very much a necessity thing. So he claimed, or so it says. Basically, the following morning, as he was leaving, he encountered Billy at the bottom of the stairs. When Billy reached behind his back, Frank believed he was in imminent danger, thinking he had a gun or something. So in response, he fired a shot in self-defense from his loaded gun. The shot missed, thankfully, and it was later discovered that Billy had only been reaching for the $100 he owed him. Frank was then charged with burglary, obviously. So, the legal issue is, of course, if he committed burglary. Burglary is basically defined as breaking and entering of another dwelling at night with the intent to commit a felony inside the building. Basically, the crime has three required elements, like I just stated. First, breaking and entering of a dwelling, right? Second, that it occurs at night. And third, that the defendant had the intent to commit a felony at the time of entry. In this case, the first two elements are clearly satisfied. Of course, Frank broke a window and entered a dwelling that was not his, and he did so at night, right? However, the third element, the intent to commit a burglary, is where the analysis becomes a little more critical, right? So, burglary is a specific intent crime, meaning the defendant must have had the mental purpose, or mens rea, to commit a felony either before entering or at the moment of entry. Intent that forms after entry does not satisfy the requirement, however. Here, Frank entered the house solely to escape the rain. He did not know it was Billy's house, and he did not enter with the purpose of confronting Billy or committing any violent act. The altercation occurred only after he unexpectedly discovered Billy inside the home the next morning. Even though Frank fired a shot, the action occurred after entry, and was allegedly done in self-defense, right? So even if the shooting were considered criminal, it does not retroactively create burglary because you need that, initial intent when he broke and entered, right? So applying our, lovely syllogistic structure, right? The major premise is that burglary requires breaking and entering at night to commit a felony. The minor presence is that Frank broke and entered at night, but he did not have the intent to commit a felony when he entered the dwelling, right? Therefore, I would say Frank did not commit burglary. While he may be guilty of other offenses, such as unlawful entry, prosecution cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had the required intent or mens reas for burglary in particular. So, defending our guy here, I do not think he should have been found guilty for burglary under the law. So, just to conclude this kind of little story, the outcome of this case ultimately turns on the element of intent. Like I said, Frank clearly broke and entered the dwelling at night. Burglary is not established by unlawful entry alone. So the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Frank entered the home with a specific intent to commit a felony, right? The facts demonstrate that his purpose in entering was to seek shelter from a severe storm, not to confront Billy or commit an act of violence. His later encounter with Billy and the shot fired occurred after entry, and those do not retroactively, like I stated, create the required intent. Because the necessary mens reas did not exist at the time of entry, one of the essential elements of burglary is missing. Therefore, under the legal definition and proper application of the law and its elements, Frank cannot be found guilty of burglary. That is I kind of re-explained myself, but I kind of wanted to give like a final kind of more legal jargony explanation. So that's about it.